Hey Ringside crew, welcome to the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. And now here's your host, Joe, Panther III.
Hello there, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I am Joe Panther III, and today, Ringside crew, you're in for a treat. I have a gentleman right here that is making waves on the independent wrestling scene. Introduce yourself, Ryan, to my internationally known audience.
Hey there, everybody. I am the Prince of Lightning, Ryan Huxley, and I've been popping off in the UK independent scene in wrestling for the past 3 years.
Awesome, Ryan. So, who trained you on when you wanted to get into this wrestling business?
So the people who train me, they're in Lincolnshire, and obviously England's very different to America. The guy who trains me is a guy called Dutch. He's quite well known in the UK scene. Like, he's done a lot of stuff there, and he's done a lot for me, like training me both in the psychology of wrestling and also making my moveset, making a character, basically everything. He's the one that I've give the most credit for, because he was the one who I first met, and he's trained me ever since I started this.
You're gonna laugh. This podcast knows full hand who Dutch is.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's quite
like,
well known, so I thought maybe, but obviously I don't know who knows who.
I know Dutch. I know his daughter was on the podcast before back in the day. We've even had the owner of the promotion on, his partner that does the promotion that he does. We know my mom had Dutch's sticker on our car up to well, she still does. She still has the cancer sticker on the car here in America. Represents the breast cancer thing all the time. She goes, yeah, even though it sounds like we're saying that we suck. No, it's the cancer sucks.
Yeah, that's fair.
Awesome. So with Dutch being your trainer, what kind of advice and what kind of little tidbits did you take from Dutch to toss into this awesome character that you have?
So I think the biggest thing for me was when he first saw what I wanted to do and how I wrestled. He first noticed that I'm quite a fast individual. So obviously they were like, how can we incorporate that? And so the Prince of Lightning character, that kind of came about because when you think of lightning, it's fast, but when it hits hard. And also you don't want to take your eyes off of it because it's that quick. You're almost like, oh my gosh, what? And also it's then the opposite, how in wrestling you want to slow down, you want to make sure everything you're doing means something and that the audience can register it. So it was learning how to incorporate my speed at the right moments, but then also learning how to slow down and allow my character to be basically evolve and show himself during a match or any sort of thing, really.
Awesome. So Ryan, if you want to gain some American fans from the Ringside crew, what are 5 words you can give them that will make them fans forever of Ryan?
Energetic. Like, as soon as I walk out the curtain, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go. 5 words. See, limiting it to 5 words is so hard.
You can go further than that. You can go, they would say there's a top 10, but there's things that could make it in, but they're just right there.
Yeah.
They can add it to it if you want to.
Agile's another one. I go around that ring very few people can, in my opinion. I'd say charismatic. I've definitely got something there. There's always you don't want to. I'm not saying it as a bad thing, but you can tell when there's a lack of it or somebody just misses it. And I think I've got that. God, it's so hard to use 5 words,
Yeah, I know.
Oh God, Jesus Christ, this is so difficult. Over the top. I know that's not a word, obviously my mind, but everything I do, I want to make it mean something. I want to make it look like it's the best I can do. And then I think the fifth word in is probably going to be like royal, because the prince thing, like I try and make what I do feel important and precious, and I want it to, like, going back to this same topic, I want everything I do to mean it, whether it's me walking out, whether it's me getting in the ring, doing a promo, wrestling. I want everything to mean as much as it can on that night or on that day.
Awesome. So with the name Prince, do you ever think that you would add the like the color purple, or like a crown, or like a fuzzy cape or anything like that, or is it a different level of a prince?
So funny as you say about the crown. When I first debuted last year in April, when I debuted, it was like, what would the Prince of Lightning wear to the ring? So like the gear I wear for my matches is the lightning bit. You've got the different colors like red, green, blue, and I've got some pink gear coming, which I'm hoping will look just as amazing as the rest. And then I thought, what does like a prince wear on top? So I've got like a white and black jacket with gold things around it that a prince would wear. And then I actually used to wear like a really bad like crown on my head that had a Velcro strap on the back, and it looked really, really bad.
Mm. So when it comes to like your very first match you had, like you said, last year, what would you hold on, I gotta pause. I gotta pause. I'm gonna pause. So let's go into it. Let's go into it. What were you thinking the first time you went through the curtain for your very first match?
So my very first match, it was this big Royal Rumble. It was actually at one of the Body Slams to Cancer events, and I'd been training for only a few months, and it was like, we're going to put you in this Rumble spot. You're going to get a moment. You're going to get, your time, and just, understand what it's like to be in front of an audience. And before I went through that curtain, I was panicking, but I was also like really excited. It was like the merge between the two. I was like shaking in my legs. I was nervous, like, because obviously I'd never gone out in front of an audience, no matter how big or how small. But then as soon as I got through the curtain, all of the anxiety, all of the fear just went away. And it was literally, you get in the ring and you just kind of focus on the ring, but the audience as well, but you only listen to them. You don't really focus on them. But like, I loved when I had my first match, and it was definitely eye-opening. I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm glad I continued to do it.
Awesome. Did you have a legit like gear set yet, or were you just doing the t-shirt and a pair of like basketball shorts?
So funny story about that. Basically, before the show, I got told, get gear, and obviously, because you don't want to look not bad, but obviously you don't want to look like you're training or something. So I had my kick pads, I had my knee pads, I even had some tape I put on my hands, and I had purchased my wrestling gear, which was red, like red trunks and the red covers to go over my kick pads, which I thought would have looked cool. The problem was it didn't arrive for the show. So in a panic, I had to go to like some sports store, and I had to buy just these black plain Nike long johns, and I had to wear them. And that's what I wore for my first match. And I laughed because it was like the very next day after the show, my gear showed up, and I was a bit like, well, it's a bit annoying, but at least I've got it now for the future shows. But it was a bit of a funny moment, in
I
my
guess for
opinion.
you could say you felt bad. You were kind of upset. Your coach kind of gave you the proverbial like thunderbolt, literally, but and gave you the thunderbolt that you didn't get. You didn't get a chance to order it earlier. But I
Yeah.
guess you learned the lesson about when you want to get merch. You don't wait for the week before the show. You do it like a month or two.
Yeah, it was like the thing was like the place that I ordered from, the gear, it was like, yeah, it takes a whole month to get it here, because I think it's from the US, I believe.
Mm.
So it was like it takes 4 weeks for it to get to you. So I was like, I think I've timed this right. I could be wrong. And obviously in the end I just was wrong, and it got there the day after, and it was a bit like, oh, it just made it that a little bit more annoying, because had it come the day of the show, at least I would have had it. I think I would have looked a bit better, and I just would have caught people's eye a bit more, I feel like, with the gear.
Yeah, I get that, Ryan. It's a tough thing when it comes to ordering things. We ordered World Series hats for the Yankees, and I was like, oh, it was before game one. They're like, oh, they're gonna get here the day of game one. It didn't get here till like a few days ago. I was like, I'm wearing the hat of the loser. That's great. Like, great. um, so what wrestlers would you say that you most admired as a kid? That like you would say that you took a little bit something from them.
So I think the first wrestler would probably be CM Punk, because I think what I liked about him is when I first started watching wrestling, CM Punk could go in the ring, he could talk, he had everything, but he didn't look like what I thought a wrestler looked like. When you saw like John Cena's, The Rock, all those guys, they were big mountains of men with muscle, but Punk wasn't really that. So I took that like, oh, he doesn't look like this big mountain of man, but the way he moves in the ring and the way he's able to talk is just amazing, and he makes you believe what he's doing. And then I think another person was Drew McIntyre, obviously UK wrestler, and I love what he's done with his career both recently and in the past. But Drew's aggression was something I always loved, because every time he hit something or he took something, it felt like you were in a fight, and you thought maybe he was genuinely hurting the guy or they were hurting him. And then I think the third one who's really caught my eye was Bret Hart. Obviously, I didn't watch it when he was in his prime, but when I went back, the way he was just able to transition, the way he was able to make every move both he did to somebody and they did to him, in the impact and the way he sold it was perfect. And it was like, if you can merge all of that together, I think you get a great wrestler, if not the perfect wrestler. So I think those three guys are the top three guys when it comes to who I took something from, and I wanted to use what they had to get as best as I could in the ring.
Mm. That's good to have people that you admired as a kid that made you want to come to these through the doors of this thing and become an independent wrestler. So, did you ever have an experience of going to shows as a kid? And if you did, what do you remember your first match you ever went to?
So I can't remember. I remember when I first started watching wrestling, there was two shows that I went to. One was a WWE live event in Birmingham in 2014, and the other was some small UK indie scene that I genuinely cannot remember at all. The only thing I remember from that UK show that I went to as a kid was there was this guy and he was wearing this Sin Cara mask and he kept saying Ole and the crowd loved him. But then it was like, I just obviously, because it wasn't the big time, I was a bit confused. Like it was wrestling, which was cool, but because it wasn't WWE, I was just a bit lost as to where and why I should like these guys, because I didn't know the story. I didn't watch them every week on TV. But then when I went to the WWE live event in Birmingham, I remember the match, which was John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, and watching that, it just it was so amazing, because watching them on TV was cool, but then seeing them in real life, even if you're not at the front row or you're not able to high five them or anything, just watching them in real life was so amazing, because you were there and you could say, I watched them in real life, which is so amazing. And I just loved everything about it. Like, yeah, it was just awesome to watch John Cena in real life and say, I saw him in real life.
Awesome. So Ryan, is there any like independent wrestlers or like anybody that in your coaching staff that you would like to wrestle if you ever had a chance to wrestle them?
So I think one person in the coaching staff who I would love to wrestle is Dutch's brother KD, because I think me and him, we have very similar styles. We're both high flyers. We're both like athletic. We're both agile, and I think me and him could mesh really well together in the ring. Obviously, I don't know what he thinks of that. I hope he feels the same way. I think another person as well would also be uh, I think Dutch himself as well, because obviously he's trained me, so why not have a match with him and just see what it's like to be in the ring with him? But
He's
I think,
crazy.
yeah, those
Careful.
two guys would be interesting.
Dutch is crazy. Careful.
Well, you gotta do it. You gotta just wrestle some people and see what it feels like.
Yeah. Do you ever thought of a match? Like, what I know Dutch does a lot of crazy hardcore matches. If he asked you to say, I'm doing a hardcore match against you, would you do it?
I wouldn't be against a hardcore match, honestly. Obviously I feel like you've got to try it at some point. You've got to just say if the story was right, if like it led up to that and it was like, yes, this is the only match type that makes sense. Yeah, 100%. I just don't want to throw it away. Just be like, oh yeah, let's have a match and let's make it hardcore for the fun of it. I'm not a fan of wrestling being like that. Like, build the story up, make the fans want to see that match, make the match feel as important as it can be, rather than it just being a throwaway, in my opinion.
Yeah, because there's so many young wrestlers that toss themselves into the hardcore and then they try to get deeper and go into the death match. And some people aren't ready for that kind of like setup because you're pretty young in the business. And that's just to any other wrestlers. Is there ever like a limit for you? Like I know there's certain days that wrestlers select for like real life and their wrestling training. Do you ever like after the day after a show, like shut it all off and just go into your own little corner and just like take it all as a regular person than being a wrestler?
Yeah, so basically, normally I would do that. The day after a show has happened, that day is like you can relax, you just take it all in, it's like a reset button, a major reset, and I just have a normal day. I'll probably just, relax my body, like let it heal up, depending on obviously what match I did. Because obviously every match you hurt, even after like the day after is when it's the worst because your adrenaline's gone, you're not moving as much. So you just gotta relax and just take a breath, take a back seat, think about it, and then just get ready for the next time and just repeat the process, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's something like at the end of this season for Dudes at Ringside, I'm gonna take a step back and just watch everything and see how I did it and make sure that don't make that mistake again and check this and do this and this. But it's a long journey between being a wrestler and being a podcaster. But like it's fun to just watch how awesome you all are doing. And I'm so proud of everything you wrestlers are doing in the UK. Would you ever take a trip to the States and wrestle, or is that out of your wheelhouse yet?
So funny you mentioned that. I actually did go to the States and wrestle this year, actually,
Oh
just a few
wow.
months ago. It was basically my parents said we're going to go to Florida for holiday, but then we were like, oh, maybe we should look for maybe like a wrestling school. Maybe there's something out there nearby us that we could do. And found this. They found this company. They said we train you and we'd even put you on a show. And I ended up doing a show for them during a holiday in Florida, which I thought was amazing, and it was
What
a
was it,
massive
CCW?
opportunity. No, it was a Team Vision Dojo.
Oh, I know Team Vision Dode. I interviewed I don't know if you met her at the show,
Ella Snow.
yes, Bella
Yeah,
Snow.
yeah, I met her at that show. Yeah,
She's such a sweetheart, and her mom's so supportive of her. And I interviewed a lot of. There's another one's a blonde young lady that's part of
Kaylee
Team Vision
Harrison,
Dojo.
was that it? Kaylee Harrison, was that her name?
Yes, Kaylee. Yeah,
Yeah, I
another
met I
good
met
one.
both of them at the show. Yeah, well, that I did, and they were really nice to me, and they were really supportive because I think they're about the same age as me, so it was quite interesting. And obviously, I was this UK guy, and like all of them were American, so I just seemed like the odd one out. So it was a bit awkward, but they were like wrestlers, so it was fun whilst I was doing it.
Did you still keep in touch with those people?
I follow them on like they follow me on Instagram and I follow them, and I see what they're doing, and honestly I'd love to go back there and wrestle some of them again because I think I could have a good match with all of them, and I'd love to obviously go back to the States another time and wrestle more because the States is where all the big leagues are realistically at the moment.
Do you think you would ever move to the States?
Yeah, I think I would. I think it's always in the cards, like because obviously, if you want to be, in my opinion, if you want to be in like the WWE, AEW, TNA, they're all in America. So I feel like living in the UK, it's a bit difficult to have that ability to get there. Whereas if you're in the States, you've got that. It's a bit easier. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's right, but I just think, in my opinion, living in the States would make it a little bit easier for those companies to notice me and maybe say, oh, this Ryan Huxley's here. Maybe we should see what he can do. Maybe we are interested in him. So I wouldn't be against living there in the future.
Yeah, that's the journey for all the wrestlers I meet from the UK. They all want to come here, but it's like some of them will never be here, and it's sad because I know a lot of independent wrestlers that I've interviewed, like Kiara, Shorty, Alfie. I know every one of them that would absolutely flourish on the independent scene in America. I definitely want to come to the UK because I know a lot of wrestlers that would be like, "You're here? What the hell? When did you tell us you were coming?" um, Before we go, if there's any and my fans want to follow you on social media, how can they find you?
So I've got an Instagram account which is simply at Ryan Huxley Wrestler. That's there. There's I've actually got a TikTok where I post a load of like funny videos there. There's some highlights from my matches. There's like versus dream matches stuff I do. There's like loads of stuff I do on my TikTok. That's just at Ryan Huxley as well. So yeah, if you ever want to see what I'm doing, like what my matches are like, you can go on both of them and you'll see what I'm up to. And like, yeah, I keep trying to do as much social media stuff as possible to get people to notice.
Yeah, that's the most important part. You have to like nowadays with social media, everybody thinks it's so easy to promote yourself. Now I'm doing this podcast on my own now for 3 years, and I find it even harder to promote yourself by yourself when there's people out there that say, "Don't talk to that person, don't talk to him, talk to this person," and it's like, okay, life, get over it. So if my fans want to buy any merch or any 8x10s with you, or if there's anywhere any stores do have yet or not yet.
Merchandise is something I haven't got to yet. I am planning on doing it hopefully next year, so there is that. But obviously at the moment it's more like getting my name out there, getting around and just letting people see what I can do, and then obviously getting merchandise and making people want to buy it. Because I feel like if you do it too early or too quick and people don't know who you are or they don't understand you, it just seems like a uphill battle, which will be much harder in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the with the young wrestler like you really have to like wait a little bit before you get merch because you get a table and you get shirts and you get bands and pins, and then what if the table just flops? You look silly at a table going, "Hey, everybody gonna come say hi," and they're just they don't
Yeah,
know who you are, so you just get a table and they're like, "Oh, well, they don't know you." That's great. Oh, that's horrible. I'd feel so bad if that happened to like you wrestle like you get a table, you're all amped, you get bands, little lightning bolts on them, and little crowns for the kids, and the kids don't get it, and they're like,
yeah.
"Well,
Why would we want to buy that when we don't know who you are? I think that's the thing with like merchandise. You've got to make them want to buy it, make them support you or believe in your character enough to want to buy that, because otherwise they'll just be a bit like, what it's like, it's the simple question, why should we care? It's that why should we care? So I think it's that if you can make them care, they'll buy your merch. I think it's that easy realistically.
yeah." Real, it's the truth, Ryan. That like you gotta make these kids believe. Like they, as a kid, '90s kid, I believed the Undertaker was dead. Like that, everybody thought he was a real dead guy. Like that skin and the way he moved and the way he popped up and way he took everybody out with one little look and punch and kick. It's hard to now with social media. Like, is he's not really dead? It's just a dude with long hair. But before we go, Ryan, if there was any kids watching the podcast, and they want to get into business like you, what kind of advice would you give them?
So I think the first bit of advice realistically is the first real bit is watch the product. Like, it realistically, watch any wrestling product you can. In my opinion, I think you should watch the WWE, AEW, those guys, because they are the world leaders when it comes to wrestling. You see what they're doing, you see what kind of wrestlers there are, you learn from that, and then obviously the next phase from there is finding somewhere to train and learning how to wrestle, because watching wrestling and watching wrestlers is very different to getting in the ring and doing it. I was one of those people, when I watched it and did it, you can easily tell, well, I can tell now, but obviously back then I couldn't. You can tell the big differences between watching wrestling and doing wrestling. So watch it, understand it, and then when you've done that, find somewhere, train there, and then build on that, and then you can go to eventually maybe doing shows, and you can go as high as you want with it, as depending on what you want from it.
Awesome. Ryan, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I want to wish you nothing but the best of luck on your wrestling career. Fans, definitely go give Ryan a follow and check him out. Go on his TikTok, give him a nice little follow. It's something like this that I always like to do. Support independent wrestling. # support global independent wrestling. If you have never watched an independent wrestling show, what are you waiting for? Like, this is all I do. That's all the people I talk to. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. My last words, like Godfather. What? Like, so it's something I love to do. But thank you, Ryan. I'm Joe Panther the Third.
I'm Prince of Lion and Ryan Huxley.
And we will catch you in the next one.